Hi everybody, it's Lucy here from Voice Mag, and last week I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with singer-songwriter Wallis to discuss her upcoming 7th album, Hands. The album comes out on May 27th, and the conversation was really fun. We talked about the process that the album took to take shape, and a few other things, so stay tuned. So tell me a little bit about your new album then. What kind of direction is it going to take?
The direction that it ended up taking was feeling wise was fundamental happiness and satisfaction. We jumped into the studio from a very fresh beginning. Philip and myself worked brand new together. We didn't really know each other, so we jumped in and we clicked immediately. So that was a huge, when something clicks immediately, then it progresses from there, and it just continually is good and is fresh and is new and is exciting. And so that was a feeling that we had making the record. We experimented a lot with what we felt nostalgic. Movement and dancing was a huge influence on the record because of a year and a half of being stagnant, sitting in a seat, and also, drinking, eating, smoking, unhealthy shit. So there's a lot of pop nostalgia in it. There's still the depth of folk lyrics, and there's a lot of pop protest in there. I like to call it protest music in from a pop world. I mean, as with all of the records, there's a huge flux of genre and speed and tempo and emotional frequency, and it never lets up. Actually, it's just it's a direct response to the last couple of years, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the album was just so stunning and so intimate. And
Oh, thanks.
you could really feel that you were kind of going on this personal journey throughout the album. And it was, there was points where you just kind of wanted to throw your hands in the air with elation. And then next minute, you're kind of like on your knees thinking, am I about to cry? And it's just, this real journey. And it was just so moving through and through.
Oh,
So
man, thanks very much.
you're very welcome. What was the songwriting process that you took? Like, how did you kind of go from having the idea to bringing it to life?
I like to say that it was born and raised in 50 weeks. So whereas my songwriting spans, it never ends. So I'm always writing, and sometimes I'm collecting little fragments here and there and might not use it for a couple of years or whatever. And that is true of this record, but primarily it comes back to working with this with Philip Miller. He was a whole new person in my life, a whole new, it's like painting with a different brush. It's like painting, you've been painting with your hands and somebody puts a brush into your hand, and it's the key that fits. So when I went over to him for the first week, all the previous collections and fragments of ideas that I had were distilled, either made zero sense or were used immediately. And but from that week onwards, we spent 1 week together, and I went home, and for the next month, I churned out, I'm not joking, 15 songs. I brought 15 songs immediately to him. That month, I barely left my studio, and it was like a flower just blooming. You know, that moment in spring when everything's just wide awake then. And so I spent the coming 50 weeks constantly writing and chipping away at what we had done. So it was an extremely fast process. I'm not normally that quick. Like, I'm quick, but I'm not normally that quick. So I like to say 50 weeks all in. Yeah.
Yeah. Did the kind of themes of the songs and the whole album itself, did that come before everything else?
No, actually. I mean, my gut tells me no, because this record was written so fast and was so intuitive and just kind of a good purge that I'm gonna have to come back to it in quite a while and realize what it was all about. For me, the songwriting process for me is often very telling much later what it meant and where it was coming from. It's kind of prophetic. So for this one, I'm absolutely going to be sitting down in a while from now and saying, oh fuck, okay, that's what that was about. And of course I felt the feelings while I was writing it and recording it, but that's as far as I guess it would take me. And the learning journey of it is yet to be seen, to be honest with you. And I'm still deep in it. I'm still like, I feel so good. I feel so connected to it because it just happened. It's only just finished. Whereas before I would have been finished a year and then had to wait, and I couldn't tell you everything about it. I'd probably overshare to information that's probably bullshit to the songs. But with this one, I'm like, no, I'm genuinely just learning. I'm genuinely just learning as I'm going along. It's super fresh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it kind of unearths that emotion and you continue to learn from that, right?
absolutely. And
So cool.
I think it's a whole new process for me.
Yeah,
I will
this
not
is
look
kind of
back.
like
Yeah.
it's almost like reading back a diary in a totally different way because you've kind of got this sonic encapsulation of how you were feeling and all these things that you were addressing in one.
Get a lot of what you're feeling. Because when you're moved deeply by what you've done, then that's actually the purest connection that you can have with your art, for sure. And nobody can take that away from you. And that's the point of it,
Yeah.
really.
Well, the whole album seems like it's a real kind of personal journey and self-exploration and confronting a lot of things that you've had to go through and come to terms with. And, this journey of self-acceptance, do you think that that's going to translate well with the audience? Do you think that people are going to be able to take from that themselves?
Yeah, I think the album is made with such intent and such confidence, and it was so confidently made, as in to say, not that I was like, yeah, this is great, as in it wrote itself almost, let's just say. It really came out so instinctively and so passionately that that's all I have at the end of the day. And once I have that, and I know that that was what was behind it, that was the driving force, then you can only take what you want from that. And it is subjectively real. Then doesn't mean it's subjectively good, but that's none of my business if somebody thinks it's good or not, like, because I know how I feel about it. But yeah, what people will take from it is, I think, a lot, because you can only deal with what's there in front of you, and if it's real, then it gives you more to latch onto. And yeah, the record is, well, it is exactly what it is. And it was made in from a very real place. It's funny, I've had people explaining to me what they've sensed from some of the lyrics, and it's like, fucking hell, I forgot about this moment where you take anything you want from it, and it doesn't matter what my meaning was. People take their own thought from it. So for example, there's a simple example is a lyric that says, in his massive gentle hands, he read my palm, he read my life. And that's about a musician friend of mine that I find very inspiring and beautifully intimidating. He's a fucking massive features person. And he was there reading, this huge bearded guy reading my palm in a really gentle manner. And that's about that guy, William Crichton. Lovely, lovely man. But another guy thought it was about my dad, And that's two very different
Yeah,
people.
I mean, it could
Very
even be
triggers,
taken into religious context because that's kind of what I got from that, and I'm not even a religious person. So having
right?
those little, kind of things that will mean so much to so many different people just
Yeah,
translates so well.
brilliant. We brought in religion there. Yes, let's go down this route.
Tell me a little bit about any religious themes that might crop up on the album.
Oh man, well, I mean, death is always the feature. In this one, I guess because I thought that the world as we know it was going to die, and health as we know it was in dire straits. I kind of figured that the rug was pulled out from under our feet. So I used the imagery of tower falling, and we are tower card, empire fall, this kind of imagery, which is more based in tarot rather than because I'm always using religious iconography, and because it was really important to the last record, Woman. But for this one, it's just like, oh my God, I've said my piece about religion. I'm just going to let that one lie. And now I'm talking about spirituality rather.
Yeah, spirituality feeds into it so much though, because again, it is so down to personal interpretation. And there's almost a vulturistic feeling about that kind of thing sometimes, that it's gonna creep up on you when you least expect it, and be this guiding light within a total sense of darkness. And that the album really shows that.
Cheers. Like, thanks very much. There's the one song which is basically about coming from the darkness into the light, and it's the saddest song on the track. It's number 11, I'll Never Hide My Love Away, where I'm like meeting my friend down the road when we were only allowed to meet one person. We weren't allowed to touch, so we had to sit outside, and we were smoking cigarettes, and we were talking about, what the fuck do we do from here? What's happening in terms of the pandemic. It's very, very hard to avoid talking about it, but everything changed. And we were talking about he was at one of the hardest points in his life, and you question the meaning, and it is about, well, no matter what happens, I know that anything cruel that anybody does to you or with you, or anything you do cruel or we do together, any cruelty in the world is just pain that comes from somewhere else. It's not directed at you. It's not because of you. It's just because of something else usually. So there's a load of soul searching in the record, a load of like, okay, it's all over, I've had a blast, but quite a bit of soul rebuilding as well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that projection of negativity and kind of hatred that the world seems to breed, as you say, it does all come from somewhere else. And it's so cyclical in that sense that you can't escape it. And if you absorb it, you start to project it and breed it. And it's just this never ending cycle. And I feel like the album really does show that. It really shows that kind of soul searching and that self examination, self reflection in a way that almost forces whoever's listening to it to do the same and go on that journey parallel to you rather than with you. It's like they go on their own journey whilst the album takes you on it,
Well, I mean, that's the compliment above all compliments, because that's what you'd be hoping to do. I suppose in my life I've been called Jesus hard work and pretty righteous, and I'd like to say that I'm then on this fucking spiritual journey just to listen more and talk less, and all these things that I'm just trying to get by and, I don't know, do better things or whatever. But to be, and I totally get the irony of being a musician, and people, I know the irony of the ego and the horribleness of all that. So it's really hard to just say what you're thinking without coming across as painful or preaching. Because one of my main goals in life is not to be preaching to the choir, just to find other ears, ones that don't agree with me or my lifestyle or anything that I'm singing about. But I like the idea of somebody like me getting into the earbuds of somebody who does not believe anything I say or dislikes it. And I like to think that, again, coming from the place of like, well, it is what it fucking is, and I just can't help it, and this is what I do, and I try to do it right, and I try to do it true. And then it gets into somebody's ears, and it's like, okay, well, actually, maybe refugees aren't so bad, or something, or maybe love is not so disgusting and cheesy, something.
I mean, it plays back into that idea of what we were saying earlier of a protest song. It's it's that protesting against the person that you would love to get into the ears of, and and force them to evaluate that and think beyond the belief that they have. Why are they believing that? Where does that come
from? Well, I grew up in a pub, and I really liked the way my parents dealt with the people in the pub. I like to think that was one of my first introductions to how to deal or be in situations with people. And because my parents' pub was on the good side and the bad side of the tracks, which I first of all think is just a bullshit kind of, is it's a funny thing. It's a cliche, but cliches are often so called because there's truth to them. So we had posh drinkers and we had poor drinkers. We had, you know, all sorts of characters. You're meeting people that are coming from unbelievable pain that need to go drink that away, or people that want to celebrate something wonderful in their life. And it kind of juxtaposition heart feelings. And the main thing that my parents always said, they were like, it doesn't matter who they are, you treat everyone with respect, and they have to treat you with respect. And I like that idea because I thought, well, that just kind of levels everybody then. It's a level playing field. And it helps with it helps with gathering stories together, because I like all facets of life. I like all people. I have time for all people. And I listen to all people, and probably to my detriment, but it makes for a really interesting life, definitely.
So I think with all those influences then, and the fact that you are willing to listen to other people and whatever it is they believe and take that on board, has that helped shape the album, do you think?
Yeah, there's I suppose I'm doing this so long that I had to work through, even when it was near impossible mentally to work or have to draw a song out of somewhere, because you're bound. I mean, even in the most fundamental way, you're contractually bound to make something, right? And that's usually the worst place to draw any kind of inspiration from, is when you fucking have to. But I used to think that was a pressure, but now I see it as an interesting way to approach something. So I treat my songwriting as a craft, and I use all opportunities to get it out, basically, to be able to chip away at ideas, at phrasing, at alliteration, at making something poetically move, all these kind of things. And I'm always just chipping away and using the experiences that I've had with the freaks and geeks that I've met, and listening to them and taking the songwriting from their general, when they're just generally talking to you. There's a sing song and everything, and there's a poetry in everybody, and it's just, you pick it up and you listen to it, and I chip away and I try and replicate all these sorts of things. So I'm never tired. And my life and listening and life experiences inspire and infiltrate and distill every way that I write all the time. Even, you know, in my lifestyle, drinking, going out and drinking buddies, I don't do it anymore because it only serves to give me a foggy brain. And now I'm not drinking and I'm going to less bars. So I have to exchange my lifestyle by going to museums or going to cafes and stuff like that. And it's a whole other different group of people and different group of stories. So everything I do, absolutely fucking everything, how I sleep, how I wake, how I eat, leads to the song. Yeah.
I really love that. I really love the fact that there's poetry in everybody. I think that's really a really nice outlook and really nice way of looking at things. So how's this album shaped up differently? How's the kind of process of writing this album differed to previous albums? Because you've got quite a back catalogue behind you.
Yeah. So I suppose, well, a lot has happened economically and in the industry since I started making music, let's say. I was 21 when I began recording my first EP. And that was done in a college studio. And then I got signed and I had to re-record that college studio EP so that I could own the rights to it rather than the college owning the rights. And when I first signed a record deal, that afforded me to be able to live and breathe and spend overnight all day in the studio every single day now, which is something that very few musicians are able to do now, because there's just no money in the music industry anymore. It's been decimated with free music, basically. So you have to imagine that there once was big money in music, and I got the tail end of it with a record deal. and I lived in the studio and made my first record, Spoons. And that was very different to what I do now, which is over time I've saved my money, because since Spoon, we could see that just statistically the business was falling, was crumbling, and for the last 10 years we've been kind of searching for where is the music industry at the moment, because bribing also became illegal and stuff like that. This is a long answer, I'm afraid, sorry. The process is now, since the last 16 years, I realized that studio time is not afforded, and so I had to decide that I wanted to produce my own records, and I have to have a good gear set up behind me, and I have to have interest in wanting to better my skills as an engineer and a producer. And so that informed how I write my music, because now I can record myself, and now I'm confident in that. So that's one thing. Necessity bred a skill within me that was really interesting. And going through different labels and realizing that they were forcing me to have a certain sound or a certain look made me realize, do not push me down a certain sound, do not push me down a certain look. And then I accentuated my personality and my sound. So that led to different albums sounding how they sound, and pressure releasing and enjoying the tension led to either a better style of songwriting or a more pressurized, contained, have to get something fucking out. And so since my third record, Wallis Bird, I decided to just say, I'm not going to put myself under any pressure. And so the last 4 records have been stepping stones in, have been masterclasses in having fun, genuinely enjoying the people that I'm working with, and just writing about life experience and what's happening in the world right now, and not with the pressure of labels or money or critical success. I let that go. And as soon as I let that go, then I stopped pandering and I started just being really real to myself and really enjoying it. There's a lot of weight lifted and a lot of working on that, working on being okay with myself and not feeling the imposter syndrome and all this stuff, and being genuinely okay and not having to be validated for my skills as a songwriter, as an engineer, and just really truly believing in oneself. So there's a lot of that. And now where I'm at now in 2022 as a 39-year-old songwriter on my 7th album, I'm like, I've fucking done it. I'm grand. So now I'm just enjoying other people's music. Yeah, so that's where I'm at now. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, the art of being carefree is something that we can all definitely take a lesson from. I mean, trying to overcome imposter syndrome is so difficult. So honestly,
much work.
Well done.
Oh, geez, thanks, Lucy.
That's exactly where I aspire to be. Finally, is there one particular track that you would either say that you're most proud of, or that you would want people to hear and really, really take something from?
Yeah. Oh, there's 2, unfortunately. So I think What's Wrong with Changing is like a song that it's so important to me, and it's a zeitgeist. It's an absolute zeitgeist. So it kind of explains what's going on in 2022. And I like the idea of marking time in a very specific way, because music is supposed to be timeless, right? It's supposed to be for forever. But What's Wrong with Changing is so very much about 2022 and looking at it and saying, that's what's happening up to this point right now. So where are we going to go from here? So I've set myself up like some kind of a timer there, which is really interesting as a songwriter. But fundamentally, from this record, my favorite song that makes me feel just really fucking good is this song called Dream Writing, because it describes the feeling of inspiration when it's bubbling in your stomach at 6 a.m. when everybody is asleep and you feel immortal, and you're looking out the window and nobody's walking on the streets, there's no cars, all the curtains are closed, and there's no lights anywhere, and everybody is asleep, and you are immortal. You're standing there looking out on a and in a sleep world, and you're the one in reality, and everybody else is in the alternative reality. And that is the closest to a real feeling of what it feels like to be inspired. And I wanted that projected in sound, and I feel it every single time that I hear that song. So I love that tune. That's my
I
favorite
think
one.
that was honestly my favorite on the record.
Oh, cool.
Again, everybody takes something so different from it, but it was just this pure elation and that kind of feeling where something clicks and you're like, this is the moment, this is now. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I really enjoyed it.
Hey, my fucking pleasure. You're a great interviewer.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm just gonna
And
stop the
go straight for what you want. Go straight for what you want. Like, truly. I don't know why I feel like saying that to you. I don't want to sound like, but I'm like, you have so many choices going to come up to you now, because you are due where you're going. So don't go around to what you want to get. Go straight to what you want to do. If you want to live in an address, go straight to that address. If you want to work in an office or work with somebody, go straight to them. Go straight for it. Don't go around it. Yeah.
And so that was my conversation with Wallis about the album Hands. The album does come out on May 27th, and you should definitely go and check it out because it's really, really good and just really, really magical. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more.